And I often think this sounds so good on a dulcimer. I often wonder if it might have been written on one. Just a little bit. Okay.
Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come round where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn, will be our delight, till by turning, we come round right. Gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come round where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn, will be our delight, till by turning, we come round right.
The song you just heard was Simple Gifts, and it was a Shaker dance tune written in 1848 by Elder Joseph Brackett. Stephanie Poxon, PhD, writes on the Song of American website that Aaron Copland featured the tune prominently in his ballet Appalachian Spring in 1944. Copland's resurrection of Simple Gifts has promoted this once forgotten Shaker melody in a prominent role of an American anthem. The tune grew out of a community of faith that was known for their simplicity and craftsmanship. Many of their sites have become historical parks where reenactors portray the simplicity of yesteryear. Sabbath Day Lake, Shaker Village in New Gloucester, Maine, is the only remaining active Shaker community. This history comes from their website. The United Society of Believers, commonly called the Shakers, was founded in 1747 in Manchester, England. They were called in derision shaking Quakers because of their ecstatic and violent bodily agitation in worship. This group of separatists were led by a remarkable young woman named Anne Lee. In 1770, she was imprisoned for her religious views. During this time, she experienced a series of visions, and from that time on, Anne Lee was acknowledged as their leader and known as Mother Ann. In 1774, they decided to move to America. Mother Ann and 8 other followers boarded a boat in Liverpool and landed in New York City. Mother Ann died in 1784, By 1787, the church was headed by American converts. And under the leadership of Father Joseph Meacham and Mother Lucy Wright, the Shakers began to gather into quote unquote gospel order. The first community was in New Lebanon, New York, and eventually 18 communities were established in Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Georgia, and Florida. The Shakers reached its numerical height of some 5,000 souls in the decade preceding the Civil War. Established in 1783, the Sabbath-day Lake Shaker Village in New Gloucester, Maine, is home to the only active Shaker community in the world today. Situated on 1,800 acres of farm and forest and land with 17 historic structures from the 1780s through the 1950s, the village continues to be a place where the Shakers live, work, and worship. Put your hands to work and give your hearts to God continues to be our guiding principle as expressed by their leader, Mother Ann Lee, more than 230 years ago. The song Simple Gifts was a product of its time. It was written just 1 year after Thoreau had left Walden Pond. He spent the next 6 years editing his diaries to make the book Walden, My Life in the Woods, where he famously wrote, "Simplify, simplify." This was the success of his philosophy and of Shaker communities, the idea of being simple and self-contained. And this success inspired many people across the country to form utopian communities. The Transcendentalists of Boston established Brook Farms. Universalist Aidan Ballou started Hopedale. Many other sects tried to build these things, and they most failed. And the Shakers, being one of the more successful, they failed because they had a practice of abstinence. And it's hard to grow a church if you're not growing people. But the notable exception to these utopian communities that failed was Joseph Smith, who his parents were Universalists, but he decided to form the Mormon Church and started a community in Ohio in 1831. And Mormons were persecuted and subsequently moved to Missouri and then to Illinois, where Smith was killed. And then Brigham Young led them out to Salt Lake City in 1847, where the movement finally thrived. So these utopian communities were very popular before the Civil War. After the Civil War, people's confidence in utopia was severely damaged. But there's still things that we can learn from these people, especially now in a country that has its own civil strife. It's a gift to be simple. 'Tis a gift to be free. But how do we do it? Simplify, simplify. The words from Walden cry out. But even he did not stay in that cabin forever. Keeping things simple is a complex task. Therefore, today I present to you this multivariant polystrategic distillation of information and practices, culminating in a symphony of solutions for our evolving endeavors of eliminating stress and enhancing our simplification processes. Or otherwise, I'm going to try to figure out what it means to be simple. The first thing I want to suggest is that multitasking does not exist. What is commonly called multitasking is actually fractional tasking. If we are trying to do two things, we are not doing two things. We are not double tasking. We are actually doing two halves of something. Triple tasking divides us in three. And despite the beliefs of athletes and the people in the NCAA tournament, you cannot give 150%. 100% is all we have. And when we split our attention, we fractionalize our focus. Any day might bring us multiple tasks. And if they are important, they deserve singular focus. But before I talk about the day, I think we should realize that we should begin and end each day with something I call zero tasking. Zero tasking is putting your mind and body to rest. This recharges us and gives us energy. Now, the most common form of zero tasking is sleep. After a busy day of fractional focus, our bodies are worn out and they force us to stop. We go, go, go until we're gone. And sometimes I have to fight the habits I developed as a toddler. I do not want to go to bed because I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. This is especially true on election nights and sadly for me, on Saturday nights when I have these memories of when Saturday Night Live was funny and I'm hoping that it might be funny again tonight. No one is available to physically carry me to bed and read me a story. So I've had to learn to do it myself. We might try a second form of zero tasking. While awake, we meditate. Sit still to quiet one's body and mind, focus on breathing until the chatter of the day drifts away. Buddhists refer to this as calming the monkey mind. The monkey mind jumps from topic to topic, resolving nothing. To try to create this inner peace before one lies down to sleep is good, because it does no good to put one's head on a pillow when the mind is still spinning and dancing. Likewise, when we awake, meditate. Take time to breathe. Let our engines warm up before shifting into gear. Throughout the day, we can take time to meditate, pause for inner peace and inner strength. Many of us have a hard time quieting the monkey mind. Our thoughts just kind of scream in our head like a toddler who refuses to sleep. And this is when we can use a gentle distraction, a process I call 10% tasking. Creating some ritual or routine that occupies just a small portion of one's mind and lowers the frenzy or anxiety or panic. A Roman Catholic might have rosary beads that they pray at several times during the day, and a Muslim stops literally 5 times a day to pray. And these rituals bring focus to distract one from our narcissism. It kind of just takes us out of ourselves. 5 times a day seems way too devout for Unitarian Universalists. but it can be done. I suggest these 5 moments of gratitude and hope. Being thankful for the past and looking to the future. First, when we wake, let us be grateful for another chance to live and think of our hopes for today. At breakfast, let us be grateful for our food and hope that we use this energy wisely. At lunch, let us be grateful for our food and hope to use the energy wisely. At dinner, let us be grateful for our food and hope to use the energy wisely. And at bedtime, let us be grateful for what we have done and hope for a restful sleep. There are other things you can do during the day to create this 10% tasking. Like, how does one prepare to sleep? I don't myself personally sit and meditate, but I do have a habit and a routine that helps cool me down. I play a bedtime story, a 10% task. I do human interest stories that I stream from a Canadian radio station. They're quiet, gentle voices, settle the rage I feel from watching MSNBC all evening. And they distract me from the disappointments of the day and lull me to sleep. Gail journals before sleep. During the day, I do different things to kind of calm the monkey mind, this 10% focus. Playing music just gives me a little background to quiet my monkey mind, keep it busy with something. And this leaves me 90% focus left for work. Playing old favorites on the radio calms me as I drive. But I do need to be careful to keep the music from being more than 10%. If the song is too exciting, I stop focusing on driving safely, and the speed limits are exceeded sometimes. My hand loses contact with the wheel because I need to drum. And at work, if a song is too interesting, I might stop work to look up the artist in Wikipedia and review their whole history and song catalog, and then I have not done any work. But trying to get that sense of having something that calms you during your day. Some people have little toys that they fiddle with on their desk. They're just little tiny things that leave enough room for 90% focusing. Unitasking, complete focus on one thing at a time, is the ultimate goal. But it's seldom achieved, and that's okay. Because feeling guilty about partial tasking even takes away more focus from the task at hand. We just should try to focus as much as we can at one thing at a time. When you eat, focus on eating. Savor the flavor. Watching TV and eating, driving and eating, all result in overeating. Fast food may seem quick and easy, but quick and easy is different from simplicity. When we have a conversation, let's have a conversation. Turn off the phone. Don't be checking your text while you're talking to somebody else. Maintain eye contact. And throughout our day, under schedule, because things always take longer than they should. so that leaves your schedule open for surprises and simplifies one's life. Do important things first. Prioritize according to your purpose in life. If you do not have a purpose, perhaps finding one is your main purpose. Now, we think that a purpose needs to be some grand scheme. It can be, but not necessarily. Our first purpose is simply to be. If we are on this planet, let's assume that we belong here. If you doubt you should exist, seek help. I know sometimes it can be hard to figure out why, and you feel that you have no purpose. This is when we need to reach out to others to help us, even professional help when needed. But for most of us in the day-to-day life, we just need to sit and listen, wait and watch, to wander and wonder. Learning to be is not a waste of time. Observe yourself as you deal with what life throws at you. Appreciate what you're good at. Note what brings you joy. Note what weighs you down. Choose to do what is truly you. The best paying job is sometimes not worth the cost. Not every path needs to be dramatic and exciting, and not everyone is obligated to raise a family. There are scripts that the world gives us, but they don't have to be our scripts. In this time of data overload, try to focus on the one data point that you know best, or you should know best yourself. But we can't just sit on a mountaintop and gaze at the world. We have lives to live. And the first level of doing is guided by necessity. Sometimes we do things to avoid negative consequences. Paying bills, driving on the correct side of the road, eating right, exercising. When we do things at this level to avoid negative consequences, this makes life a series of chores. Life is simple, but not much fun. The second level of doing is guided by desire. Go after what's important to you. Spend money on what's important to you. You drive safely so you can get where you're going. You eat things that make you feel good now and later. And you keep fit so you can enjoy more activities. Doing things at this level makes life a series of challenges. Life is fun. You're always kind of looking for the next thing. But as such, it's seldom simple because each success brings new challenges. But there is a third way of living that is beyond avoiding punishments or seeking rewards. Do what you need to do to be. Do what you need to do to be the best version of yourself. If you need to have children, you will feel that longing. You will have children and love them. Children are not a reward or a punishment, although sometimes that can seem to be the case if we lose focus of this third way. You accept the good and the bad with your children because you're motivated by love. You live a life of commitment. You do what you need to do to be a parent you want to be. This simplifies life. It does not make life easy, but it's easy to make decisions when you know what is your first priority. When you are aware of your core priorities, decisions are simplified. Sometimes a job is what you need to be. Now, a person who writes is a writer. They may make a living at it, or they may not. But when they are writing, they are doing what they need to be. They may get a job as a writer, or they may get a job doing something else in order to support their writing. But having that purpose, that sense of who one is, simplifies their life. They know who they are and what they do. Now, very few of us are just one thing. We have many roles: employee, sports fan, artist, parent, child. Look at each of your roles and think of how they manifest. Which ones do you do to avoid punishment? Which ones do you do to seek rewards? And which ones do you do to simply be? These roles that we do to avoid negative consequences, these are things we have to do, and we just should try to do them and walk away once our obligation is fulfilled. In the scheme of life, I consider this like the washing of hands before dinner. It's something that we do. Nobody lives to wash their hands, although most of us have felt in this past year that we have been living for the sole purpose of washing our hands. But the truth is that this is just an obligation that we have to ourselves and to others. And so this is just preparation. This is just a duty that you need to do. Don't give it much thought. Get through it. And then think of those roles that you have to do to be you, your true self. These are the main course of life. And you follow that course and your life becomes simple. Trust that there is something worthwhile for you to do. Sit and ponder, wait and wonder, live and learn, and then return to the center of your being. Your main role is simple congruence with your soul. Live life with purpose. But do not forget to have fun, because purpose is the main course, but fun is kind of what restores us. Fun is the dessert of life. Recreation has its purpose in its very name, recreation. It's what gives us energy in our lives to live our purpose. So if we're doing things focused only on what needs to get done, what has to be done, what's driven by our soul, and we don't take time to have fun, to recreate, we burn out. And so that's also part of what we need to do. One way that I recreate is by returning to nature. Here on the coastline, I like to go look at the rivers and the trees. When I lived in Western North Carolina, I would go to the mountains. In Indiana, the land is flat. But here's a secret. Where you see a tree, there's probably a beautiful ravine. Because if that land was flat, it would have soybeans on it. But if you see a little bunch of trees, go find out why they're not plowing in that area, and you will find these little treasure boxes of joy all over Indiana. In this time of pandemic, our lives are confined. We have been forced to turn inward, and our purpose has seemed to be merely to survive. We spend our time hand washing, and we never seem to get to our main course, the purpose of living. In times of stress like this, it's okay to go straight to dessert. Find that fun, that recreation that recreates you. Going outside and being in nature is socially distancing. It's a safe and simple way to reconnect. We do not have to be at home alone. Go out in nature. Stand 6 feet away from somebody else, or be one with the world. Find your valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. We let go of ego. To turn will be our delight. So by turning, we come round right. And one of the places I enjoy going is in Western Carolina. We have these lovely mountains. And I'm going to sing a song about just having fun on the mountain, finding our place in nature. Gail is going to join me as we sing Climbing Up a Mountain.